Welcome to Wasted Local Talent.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Wasted Local Talent. I'm Daniel, and a lot has changed since you've last heard me with the outbreak of the coronavirus and everything. Things are kind of wild, but I'm recording this from my bedroom. I am self-quarantined myself. So yeah, it's been kind of a wild couple weeks, but here at 13 Palm Trees, we're trying to keep content coming to you on a regularly scheduled basis. It includes all of our podcasts, D&D Kinda, Video Game Mythos, Gurus of Gaming, and the Final Girl podcast. I know that most of us will be doing things remotely and should still be having content out weekly or bi-weekly or whatever our typical schedule is. So you can keep an eye out for all of our podcasts on all of your favorite podcast apps. And for anybody who knows us here at Wasted, we're dedicated to providing free promotion for West Virginia businesses, bands, and artists. And we've been going for almost 2 years now. And through the COVID-19 and everything that's been going on, I know a lot of local bands and businesses and artists have been affected by this. So what we're going to be doing here at Wasted is we're going to be putting out a special episode. And the idea is for any local band, business, or artist that wants to participate, you can call us at 304-641-4020 and leave a voicemail, and think of it kind of like an ad for your business, because what we're doing is we're going to take these voicemails and put them into our recording software and do like a mashup of everybody who wants to participate. So basically whatever you want to say in your ad, the people will hear from you in this episode. So, you know, if you're a local restaurant and you're doing takeout and are able to do takeout, call us, tell us all about what you're doing, and leave how people can get in contact with you to place orders. And we'll put that in the episode. If you're a band or an artist and you're doing Facebook Live to help support you with donations and things like that, just call us, tell us what you're doing, tell us where people can find you, and we'll put that in the episode. Pretty much anything that you want to promote for yourself, your business, just call us, and that voicemail that you leave us will go into the episode. And we're going to try to put that episode out on Monday, March 30th. So if you want to be involved, again, the phone number is 304-641-4020. That's 304-641-4020. And you can call anytime, day or night. That's my personal cell phone number. I never answer phone calls anyway, so you don't have to worry about me picking up at 3 a.m. and being mad, because I'm typically up anyway. But yeah, so we do have a sponsor that I'd like to tell you about. It's 304 Off-Road. So check out 304 Off-Road for all your side-by-side parts and accessory needs. From mild to wild builds, they have what you need. They're on Facebook at 304 Off-Road, or browse their website at 304offroad.com. And before we get into the episode, I want to give a huge shout out to the guys in Worst Kept Secret for letting us use Bender in our intro and outro of all of our episodes. Those guys are great, and we're very sad that they have called it quits. So we'll miss them, but we will try to keep their memory alive with Bender, the best song that they've ever released. If you want to purchase their album, it's still available on iTunes. Just search for Words Kept Secret, and it's pretty good. So you should go check it out. So I think I've talked enough. So let's go ahead and get to Aristotle. What's up, everybody? I'm Daniel.
I'm Josiah.
And today we're wasting our talent with
Aristotle Jones.
So how are you today, sir?
Man, I'm great. I'm honestly, I got up, I cleaned up my house and took a shower and, did all that stuff, getting ready for this. And I'm stoked just to have a conversation with you guys.
Good. Josiah did not shower today.
No shower.
I did shower at least this week, though.
Yeah, no.
So I do have some laundry that I need to do.
Hey, I'll send mine over your way.
Okay, yeah, we'll throw them in there.
Just do everything together.
Yeah, just separate. I'll even separate mine for you. That way
Okay.
it's
No, I
pre-separated.
just all in the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
Crank it to hot. That's how I do it.
All right, man. However gets the job done.
Yeah.
That's a Tide commercial.
Yeah. Okay, like sidebar, I know that we just got started, and typically this is about 20 minutes in when we get off topic, but those Tide commercials for the Super Bowl, I don't know if you watch the Super Bowl. They were great.
With Charlie Day?
Yeah.
Those were fantastic.
It was like a cameo inside of a commercial that was actually for something else. It was like super meta.
Yeah, it was great.
It's setting in.
Is it later? Is it later yet?
I fixed the stain.
So Aristotle, tell us about yourself.
Oh man, I'm a singer-songwriter, creative person out of West Virginia. I currently live in Morgantown, West Virginia. I was born in Huntington, or I was born in Morgantown, but I was raised in Huntington. So I've lived in West Virginia pretty much my whole life, and I make what they call Appalachian Soul music, or what I call Appalachian Soul music. It's more of a feeling than it is like a style. It's when you take all these different influences you get around the area, mix it up into a nice little pepperoni roll, stick it in the oven. You know what I mean? You get it's good and savory, and it's unique. And I just like to blend it all together and create new stuff, man. I've always wanted to just create new music through the filter of Aristotle, you know?
Yeah. I know a little bit ago we were sitting here, and Josiah got his phone out and just looked up Aristotle Jones on SoundCloud, and he's like, "Is this him?" And it was like a hip hop artist, and I was like, "No, it's not." I was like, "That's not even close."
There's this dude out
what
of Boston, man, and
Yeah, that's what I clicked on.
I was like, "Man, I've been Aristotle Jones my whole life, my whole music career." But I've it's cool, man. And then I wonder if that hey, big shout outs to all the Aristotle Jones in the world, man. Represent yourself, be yourself. But it was interesting, you know, like because it was right before I was putting out this my single, and I looked up and I was like, okay, here's this rapper, and I listened to his stuff, and I go, that's pretty good. And I said, well, man, I wonder if that's like his real name too, or if he came up with that. And then I said, well, that's the question everybody always has. Is that your real name? And so Aristotle, the other Aristotle Jones, if you're out there, is that your real name too, man?
Yeah, leave us a comment. Let us know.
Let us know, man.
That was actually going to be my next question. Is Aristotle your real name?
Yeah, I mean, I was born. My dad wanted a smart, rich son, so he named me after Aristotle Onassis, who was a shipping magnate out of Greece, and Aristotle the philosopher. And
you're playing music.
And I'm a musician. Yeah, I've recently been doing some guided meditations, and one of the things you have to do in your daily affirmations is you say things like, I'm healthy and I'm wealthy. And I was like, well, man, I'm good at the first one. I feel like I'm in good health. And I was like, well, man, I guess my wealth comes through creativity and through like experience with people. And as I go along, I'm not saying I'm doing poorly. Honestly, like I took that perspective and I said, okay, well, what is it that I want to be representing my wealth? What do I want to show off? And really it was, I wanted to perform a lot this year. I wanted to put out a lot of music. I wanted to connect with a lot of fans, and it became a different type of focus on like what personal wealth is. Like I want to get a lot out of life. I want to have a full life and not necessarily be worrying about the stuff or the energy that comes with having a lot of stuff. I think it's better just to like experience it, you know?
I was just recently listening to Michael Rosenbaum on the IDIT podcast, and he talked about he's a creative person as well, and how much anxiety he doesn't even realize he has. So he talked about kind of like you. He wake up and look at yourself in the mirror and say, "Hey, man, I love you," and just like putting the positiveness out there. And so that's kind of cool to see it that you're doing that as well. But he talked about how hard that is, because he's like, I don't believe that.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's hard.
It's tricky. Like I was going through, I just started at the beginning of the year. It was really interesting because David Haley, who drums in my band, we on these long road trips when we're going to shows, we're always having these, you know, interesting 3-4 hour in conversations that half people are asleep, and here you are, you're just trying to get from point A to point B. But we would talk about meditating in different religions and different perspectives on different religions and creativity. And he referred this book to me. It's called The War of Art, and which essentially, you know, most people are like, most capitalists and like people, you know, strategists, business strategists are talking about the art of war and in generals and everything, you know, and that tells you how to like kind of deal with your adversary. Well, the War of Art is more of the tug of war between you fighting through your resistance to become an artist. So like I guess essentially it's like the difference between an amateur artist and a professional artist would be like your intent with what you go about it at one stage, but at a different stage it's about being paid too. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, so like that's kind of like the trippy aspect of it. But through these books and meditations and conversations you have randomly with your bandmates, you know, I took that at the beginning of the year and I said, okay, well, I'm going to get into spending some time focusing on me and what I want and where I want to go. And so really the guided meditations allowed me to go through what I like to call trajectory. It says, I mean, if I can think far enough out, then I'm literally predicting the future. It may not happen that way, but if I go that route with intent, just like driving from Morgantown to Fairmont, I could have got off at a lot of different exits and took a lot of different roads. But if I get back and I know I'm staying true to coming down to your studio, then I'm going to get here eventually. Mm-hmm. So I can, like, at the first steps of me moving towards my objective, I can actually like not stress out anymore because I'm that at the first step. And that's the beauty of it. It literally works for anybody because it's the idea of it is every goal, every destination has a first step. It sounds super cliche. So it doesn't matter if you want to be the president, if you want to go to the moon, if you want to like run cross country like Forrest Gump, you know, you just got to kind of go through that step and know where you're going to end up and continue along that pathway. And that was, so that's how I moved through my creative process. But there's something called a solar plexus chakra or part of you. And that's, kind of your confidence, your intent, your in your direction. And that was the hardest affirmation whenever I said something like, oh, I'm heading in the right direction. But I'd lined up all this stuff and I was like, oh, is this it, man? I got this big stuff on my plate. Hope this is it. And it was a really weird thing I wasn't expecting to experience because you think, oh, well, I'm grounded, I'm safe, I have food, I'm creative, I have connections with people. Then it was like something simple like that. Oh, I feel like I'm heading the right direction in life when you're following your dream. And so I've really took a lot of time to meditate and work on that and reinforce that and step outside of just manifesting one specific idea as opposed to say, hey, man, this can happen a lot of different ways. As a matter of fact, it's happening much differently than I originally thought it would happen. So I better get involved and start enjoying this journey along the way, as opposed to just being like, "Oh, I'm not Beyonce yet, man." You know, or, you know, it's like it may never get there, may be beyond there. I might end up being like Bill and Ted. You know what I mean? Wild Stallions, you know, it's just something crazy that changes the world. Who knows? I might just sing open mics for the rest of my life. Mm-hmm. But if I enjoy playing music and I enjoy the experience of it, then I think I'm going to get way more just wealth out of life.
Yeah. And it's something that you have to enjoy because it is a grind sometimes. And of course, you always have, whether it's friends or family, and you're saying, okay, this is great, but when are you going to get a real job? And then that's why worst. You have to believe in yourself because sometimes when it's not going great, you're the only one that does believe in yourself.
Well, you're the only one that knows what you're doing.
Yeah.
I mean, even in band practice yesterday, we were sitting down and I was trying to explain these arrangements for these harmonies, and I would say what I wanted, and then it goes through the filter of the air, then the filter of their ears, and then their brain, and then out their mouth, and so through those 3 steps of just hearing what I was saying and then trying to reproduce that, we're on a 5th draft already.
Yeah,
and so it's like and then you think, and Dave. He's a drummer, so he's not singing. He's back there playing drums. Yeah. He goes, well, man, we should do this a different way. You know, like we should, instead of you trying to sing it for people and then reproduce it, like let's take a step back and try to and approach this a different way that's a little bit easier because you know what you want. They're trying to figure out what you want, but every time but the harmony kept switching, like everybody kept switching lines because they would hear somebody else's kind of tune in, and then they would start singing that, and then that other person that was better at the first harmony would start harmonizing, and so it wasn't exactly what we were trying to get across. It was essentially, like I say, a 5th draft by the time they were singing it, and it started to sound good. Now, could we play a show with it and not really, you know, would the audience be like, oh, no, that's not exactly what I heard on the CD or on your album, but at the same time, it's like, I'm all about letting the audience hear the arrangement right now. Like, you know, hearing that thing that didn't exist before, that only existed in my head, that I've been living with for Lord knows how long, getting that out there and allowing that energy in its purest form to interact with the fans and to let them interact with their day, and then let that energy just kind of perforate through our lives. And maybe it'll get back to me somewhere along the way. Maybe not. Maybe I'll just write more songs. But it's all about that idea of like being relentless towards getting that out, and that's something where I try to stick to.
I feel like Daniel has a lot in common with that, where he's a musician as well. And if something's not exactly as he like imagines it in his head, he's like, well, then it's not finished. And so he'll spend years on a song, and he's like, nope, it's not done yet because it's not what I want it to be. So that's the life of a musician.
Exactly how it
well, that's the beauty of being an artist. So, I mean, like, because it's magical. I say magical, it's divine. I think there are divine gifts that humans have. And I like to take the analogy of the Judeo-Christian creation myth. All right. And so you have Adam and Eve, and you have the Garden of Eden. But before all of that, you have this week. It was like literally a week. It was a week where God was like, hey, it could have been God's spring break for all we know. You know what I mean? Like, hey, I'm going to make something up of myself, So he for 6 days, he creates. For 1 day, he rests. And then for the rest of eternity, it's managing. So within humans, we have those skills, you know what I mean? And a lot of times we don't really balance them out. And some people are just excellent managers. And a lot of people out there are excellent managers. Some people are just really good at resting too. You know what I mean? Like, don't get me wrong. But there's the idea of creation, taking something that wasn't and making it into something that is no less than pure magic to me, or no less than pure divinity in that respect, where it's like, hey, man, that's something that not everybody can really do, not everybody can really control. So you have to kind of be pure to what you're thinking. If not, then it's going to be like the internet, where everybody's contributing a little bit at a time. It's great that it's moving at the speed of thought, but we have no control over what is really going to be coming out or how anybody's interpreting that. So that's why we have a lot of these kind of blatant glitches that happen in society with the internet. So I try to like think about it like that when I'm creating too, and especially this latest album I'm working on. It's been the first time I've actually spent like years in the making trying to get something out, and that was an interesting experience. But essentially, what happened was life happened, and the band kind of like shifted members, and then like we went from having like a group to being like solo to still trying to go out and gig and make enough money to pay for everything, and the whole grind aspect of it. And then there was times when you're like, well, man, I don't know if I'm gonna get this done. And I would sit in the studio for, literally, man, like I go there, sit in there a couple hours and just try to work out what I'm trying to say. And then I think to myself, like, man, this isn't going to work out at all. And then finally I get the rest of the idea layered over top of that. And you're like, yeah, I knew I was on to something. Yeah. I knew I was doing it, but it didn't have everything. So I was just kind of frustrated. And so now, like, I'm super excited to have everything layered out and have the music the way I want it. So, I mean, it's fantastic. It's a great feeling.
Do you work with a producer, or do you do everything yourself?
I work with Tommy Bailey from, he has Riot City Studios, but he does a lot of work with me together. I mean, so I would say I'm, like, literally producing it. He's doing the engineering, the mixing, and mastering of it. But as far as, like, the arrangements and the concept of how to put the songs together, that's really kind of laying back on me as a songwriter. And then being a songwriter and then the performer and then kind of managing the instrumentation that's coming in, the musical director of all this, it can be a challenge, especially trying to create music in this area where musicians are real hand to mouth around here. So it was like, oh, you want to come out and record this? And he's like, well, I got to work at whatever I got to work at. Yeah. And you're like, well, man, I guess that might be another month before I can get a chance to get this person over to the studio, or I got to find somebody else. So it's been a lot of fun. But right now I'm in this super collaborative mode where, because I guess I probably spent like the last couple of years in my head, like working things out myself, and I feel confident on how to express myself, which was something else that I didn't think I was going to get out of it. Now I'm more into like just collaborating, taking what people are saying. I always say, if we all have the best interest of the finished product at heart, then that adversarial notion of the ego, whose idea is better, can kind of go by the wayside. And even what we do is we do this A/B test, and it's a simple test that anybody can do. I recommend this to anybody that's in a band or starting out a band or has several writers in your band. Play it both ways. Your gut's going to tell you which way is the better way. You're going to hear it, and you're going to know. You're going to have that feeling. Whatever feeling gets you super amped up is probably what you should go with, not just what you want,
That's the psychology of flipping the coin to make a decision. But while the coin's in midair, you're like, gosh, I hope it lands on tails.
Yeah.
Because this is what I really want to do. And then when it lands, it doesn't really matter because you're like, okay, now I know what I want.
I already know what I want to do. That's exactly what it is. And the whole idea, I put it out there like that. That's a way to interject with that clever, it's a capitalist thing he's doing there. He's adding fiat currency into that.
I like how you bring that up. That's how we lost our fantasy football this year.
Did I? Well, I remember flipping the coin.
Because I was struggling with what defense to start, and it was me and him in the finals.
Oh, yeah.
Or whether I should start him or not, because I was already up. And he's like, let's flip a coin. And so he did it. He's like, well, what did you want it to land on?
Were you playing each other?
Yeah, we were in the finals of the fantasy football.
My defense ended up scoring like almost 30 points.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And I beat him. How much did I beat you by?
You beat me by like 150 points. It was
I
stupid.
destroyed him.
Oh, nice.
He had one of those weeks where all of his players scored 30 points, and we're not going to talk about it anymore. Aristotle Jones.
No, man. Fantasy football is serious stuff, man. You got to learn about the game. That was the tricky part about it. You can't casually play like fantasy football because fantasy football is completely different than like football.
Yeah.
You got to be like, I'm a statistician. I know these people are playing against the run and their strong safety's out this week and here's what's going on. You're like, well, geez,
and it doesn't matter which guy can run a 4-4 or which guy can do this. Yeah. Maybe you pick up a backup on this team that's better than the starter on this team. And it's
all about matchups and opportunities. And I mean, to revert back to music, it's really similar to that type of thing, how you take your opportunities. And for me, with like because I played a lot of restaurant and like family friendly shows versus the venue shows, now I even go into different venues around different places, and as I travel to different cities, you can kind of catch their vibe. Mm-hmm. So now you're starting different songs to get different reactions so that I can still take get my message across. So it's like I might not I'll put out the same original songs, because those are like my songs. I want to play those everywhere. Of course, I'm going to just blast them as much as I can. But the cover songs that I might choose, and a lot of bands don't know as many cover songs, but I probably got 60 or 70 cover songs that are just like, oh, well, we could play this, and we've done unique versions of it. So when you're playing like a 45-minute set, and you're like, hey, let's do that version of that song that maybe nobody was paying attention to at the restaurant, but it's a killer version of that cover, and then you play it and they're like, oh wow, that's awesome. And so now I'm like, for me, that's all about how to create content and how to own that, because it is something that we have, but it's also like, what do you do? It's a different skill set.
I think that's a lot of things that bands struggle with is the set list. And I mean, you've mentioned you've played restaurants and you've played like 4 hours at a time.
Oh yeah,
that means you have a catalog. And if you play a cover, let's say a 90s cover, and nobody reacts to it, you think, okay, maybe not go back to the 90s. And then you play an 80s cover and everyone's all about it. And then you're like, okay, we have 4 more 80s songs I know. And then you're just like, you can adapt on the fly.
Yeah. I mean, like, what's really been an interesting, what I like to do, and to me it's interesting because I watch it happen, and especially like in West Virginia and like when we play like beach towns, what happens is it'll be kind of like an all ages crowd earlier. So you got a certain kind of material that you're playing right at the beginning of your set. So we do a lot of like Motown, like a lot of like really commercial, maybe like contemporary pop songs that you hear. Nothing that's pushing it too hard, but it's a good song. Everybody likes it. It's not gonna it's not going to change your life specifically, but it usually makes everybody smile. But by the time we get to 3.5 hours in, like now it's the party crowd, and the party crowd wants something completely different than. And if you try to play any of the stuff you played at the beginning, it doesn't quite work. So all of a sudden you're playing like just some super dance music, and it never fails. Like I will have probably gone a whole set, never played any hip hop at all, and somebody like, can you play some Lil Wayne? And you're like, all right, let's play that song. We did that a few because like too, it's fun. You know what I mean? Like you get into it, but it's not exactly what you want to put out there. Like because it's hard. You don't want to get pigeonholed into something you're not.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's easy. And that was the thing about like live music in the area that really it's been confusing to me because like there's more opportunity for live music, but the audience isn't necessarily engaged with the creative music makers around. So it's in the venues that you can play. So you might be able to like, I can go get a gig at, say, if you're in Morgantown, you know, I can go to Tropics or I can go to Crab Shack, right? And there'll be a big crowd there. And, but then you go there and you're like, well, I can't really communicate my message. I'm here for entertainment. I don't want to just be a jukebox, but then you're like, well, we got to pay rent. So we're going to do this. And so I lump it into a couple of different ideas. So one would be like your service gig. And so your service gig would be like, hey man, if you're paying me enough money, I'll pretty much play anything that you want. I'm a musician. I sit at home playing music for free. So, you know what I mean? I don't mind coming out and performing, using my music as a service talent. It's just like anything else. It'd be like just like having a day job. You know what I mean? Like I can type, so I might go type papers. Yeah. And then there's your artistic gig. And for me, like the artistic gig it's so much more fulfilling. But it's really about getting what you want to say across and hoping that there's somebody there that can connect with it. We played a show at 123 Pleasant Street. It was a week ago, Thursday, or a week from this past Thursday. And what was really cool about it was 123 Pleasant Street. If you've never been there, it's kind of hit or miss. You never really, if you got a big crowd that you know is going to come, or if you happen to be like in the college scene, then, you know, you can get your buddies to come hang out, then they'll come there. But like it's like any other music venue. If you didn't bring the people, they're not going to be there hanging out versus a restaurant gig where there's just a ton of people. They may want to listen to you or not. So the idea of it, when we got there and we played, and it was this fundraiser for, it's called the Sierra Club, which is about Appalachian conservation, green energies, just being good stewards of the place we live. And so I'm like, okay, we'll get there. I didn't know what it was. Somebody asked me to play it. And I said, well, sure, it's a gig. We'll go out and hopefully there'll be some people that'll like it. So I put this set together thinking it was going to be like older people, you know? I don't know why. I mean, when I say older people, you know, people that are just adults and grown and have jobs.
Daniel's age.
Yeah.
And so I get there. And it's like a college club, and here it is, and it's just like, oh well, shoot, here is like literally like 70 college girls, and they're just ready to dance, and they're like, okay, we're gonna have to. And so in the middle of the set, we were like, we're playing, and they liked it in the beginning. I was like, well, we're just going to take this up a notch into like a different groove. So we called an audible, man, and we just shot it up to the dance groove, and like we just laid it out there as hard as we can. But we made fans, and I think we made fans. It was real because that was part of our material, but it was the part of the material that was a little bit more edgy, a little bit more, not so much just like your Appalachian singer-songwriter style, but what you get when that Appalachian singer-songwriter adds in different elements of funk and hip-hop and soul and creates that new stuff. And then we play a couple covers that introduce that we're taking it up a notch. And all of a sudden, it was a perfectly great party, and it was like, well, if we had kept going, would we have lost them with what we were regularly the set that was there? I don't know. They might have really enjoyed that too, but it felt in the moment like the energy that was coming from the crowd and the energy that we were producing as a band said, let's go ahead and take this up. And so that's one of the benefits of having a lot more songs than just the few songs that you wrote. You know?
That's versatility that you get from doing the shows that maybe, like you said, you don't necessarily not want to do, but that's not your goal. Your goal, of course, is to headline whatever concert and be Beyonce, like you said earlier. But I mean, playing the Crab Shack or something like that, and you learn versatility from that, and then going to 123, and you have knowledge of, oh, we know this song. Maybe these girls will like it, and then you're off to the races from there. Now you have fans that are going to look up your original stuff.
And that's the main point of it all. Is like now you have these fans, and
some people won't play those shows that they don't like the 4-hour sets. Those are grueling sometimes.
Oh yeah,
That's tough.
You get dehydrated. I've cramped up, man. Like, and
You're hungry.
You're hungry. I mean, like, and sometimes it's like out in the middle of the day, and it's like 90 degrees.
No one's paying attention to you.
Yeah,
They're just worried
you
about
don't-
their breadsticks and
Yeah, you don't think anything's happening, but then you'll get that one person that comes up and says, "Man, you did this, this, and this," and I was really into it. And I was like, well, man, I didn't see you anywhere. I mean, where were you when I was like really out here in some existential crisis in my head about is this even worth it at this point? But at the same time, it was. But those are the moments when you say, okay, well, we are making an impact. Now, like what I'm really focused on doing is I like to consider fan conversion. And fan conversion is you got to decide what you want. If you're going to make music, you got, just like any business or anything you're going to spend your life for, so your energy on. You want to decide what you're going to get out of it or what you're trying to accomplish. And so a lot of times, a lot of bands that I see don't really have goals for the year. They don't really have objectives they want to hit. They don't know. They just want to get as many gigs as they can. They just want to play as much in front of as many people as they can. Well, and that was the way that I went about it too. It's like, oh man, I'm just trying to add money and have fun playing music, and I want to make sure my friends have enough money to pay their bills too, like that play with me, so we can keep playing music together. And it became a lot about the administrative stuff, but it was like the idea of well, if we determine what we want, then we know what we can get. Easy. And then we know whether we're doing the right things to get that. So I was like, well, let's set last year. I knew I was going to put out music. I knew I was going to travel around. So I had sat down at the beginning of the year with my with the guys that I was playing with. I was playing with Drew Jones, Xavier Williams, and David Haley. We were a quartet, and our group is called the Digital Nomads. And so we had gone around with the Digital Nomads and released an album. And I said, okay, we're about to release another album. We just bought a van. And I was like, okay, well, I bought the van, but I was like, hey, here's the deal, man. We have everything we need. Let's just set it up so that we're not just trying to do 60 gigs in the same place. We're running, because you burn that out. I think if we can just do 60 gigs in 60 different places, then that's more fans. Yes. Instead of burning out those one fans, we just got to get in the car and go. And it was seeing, like, once I said that, it kind of took the, you could see the look in everybody's eyes because it was going into uncharted territory.
Yeah, it gets more serious.
It was more serious, and it's like, are we doing this or are we not? And so that, and so I was when I put it out there, it kind of was like, well, you can see a couple members of the band at the time weren't really ready to take that step, and then and so I was bummed out. And I was like, and so that group, we kind of had to go on a hiatus because, like, I was like, well, I'm ready to go, and everybody was doing something different. And so I was like, man, what's happening here, man? Like, and I literally lost my voice. We had a gig down at the Boulevard Tavern. We're kind of going back down. Well, we're going back down there this weekend. But we had a gig down at the Boulevard Tavern, and it was Drew was playing bass, and he couldn't make it. And you could kind of tell things were going shaky ground anyway. It just kind of decided he didn't want to go to that particular show. And Xavier, he plays with a lot of groups, so you could kind of tell the weight of playing with a lot of different groups was getting on him. So he's like, I'll go, but you know what I mean? Like, I can't really do much more. So we got down there, and you're having this kind of show where you're like, this is just us winging a show and trying to get through it, and it's fun, and people in the audience, they saw it and they liked it, and we did it. But I was just like talking loud and kind of screaming over everybody, just trying to get like emote that catharsis. And after that, I like lost my voice, and it was never back to. It was probably 2 or 3 months before I could get it back to being where I was happy with
Healthy.
singing.
Yeah.
Well, and it was too. I mean, part of it was health, and I think part of it was just like that psychosomatic trauma of grieving for a lost project. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I was like, hey man, we put this together, we got the music together, we got routes, we got the way to get there, we don't have to really work as hard. And then so I had created this future in my mind that just wasn't going to happen. So like to have the desire to work through that, it wasn't quite there. And I was living with my grandfather at the time, and Granddad, he played music. He was an old school musician, and what he would do is when he was my age and a little bit older too, he would go to, he worked in a coal mine during the day, but him and his buddies, they would get together and they would do like this gospel doo-wop group called the Gospel Airs. And so what they would do on different churches would invite them to come to their churches on Sundays. And it was the early 20th century, so it was kind of like segregated in Jim Crow. So like it wasn't like, so he would go to these black communities from like Fairmont, Osage, West Virginia, Petersburg, West Virginia, wherever you could find like black churches, and they would travel these churches and they would sing and they would get, they called it the fried chicken tour. You get your chicken and you get, and they take them an offering for you, and it was fun. Like for him, but he would always give me this really cool advice. He goes, "Oh man, you gotta do this. You gotta do this. You gotta tighten up this. You gotta do this." And he, after all that was going on, and I was trying to explain to him, and I would sit there and I would just talk. And of course, you have all these excuses why things aren't working out. When in reality, the reason things aren't working out is just timing. Not everybody was ready to do this at the same time. It's hard to get anybody on the same page anyway. So he was like, "Well, you know what, man? Just be yourself, man. Just be yourself," which was like a very blunt, obvious thing to do, which everybody always tells you to do.
But how do you do that?
It's super hard to do. You know what I mean? Like, so, but I'd been going on this journey since about 2014, where instead of making New Year's resolutions, I was like, well, okay, I'm going to make lifestyle themes that I'm going to adhere to or something like that. It wasn't like something I had to do. It was just something I could, whenever I had to make a decision, I could rely on this thing. So I said, well, I'm going to start adding core values to my life. So the first one I did was I want to be the best me I could be. So luckily when he goes say be yourself, I had already spent, well, up until this point, it's still a core value of mine because you get them and you just add to your toolbox. And so, but what the tricky thing about that was like there's intended consequences and there's unintended consequences to being yourself. One of the great intended consequences is like you are going to feel more alive. You're going to feel more engaged with the world around you. You're going to feel like you have opportunities to be happy. One of the unintended consequences is if somebody doesn't like you, then it means they don't like you. And so you have to take that and then like work that out for yourself. And so first question I had to ask myself, I was working at Folly Music. This is the flashback within the flashback, by the way. Yeah. So we're back in 2014. Yeah, thought within a thought. And so I had to ask myself, well, what do I do? What is it that I do? Like, am I a guitar player? Am I a singer? Am I a salesman? Am I just friendly? Do people just like the fact that I'm around? And that was real tricky because I was like, well, man, if you let people tell you what you do, then they're going to tell you what they think of you. But when I went through that and I said, well, what's the common thread between doing like guitar sales or selling myself, running sound, writing songs, playing guitar, being a nice, friendly guy that people like to be around. And what all came down to is like, well, man, part of that is because I'm creative. It's not that I can make it all up as I go along. I'm creating these situations. So I would hang out with somebody and I'm like, oh, I can see where you're coming from. I see what you like. I can be that too. But instead of being myself. And so I'd lived many, many years of my life just kind of creating realities to fit into certain places. And I think that ties back into growing up in a rural area where there wasn't a lot of diversity and having to just make the friends that were around. And not everybody was actually receptive to being friendly to me for reasons that were either my fault or not my fault. And so like you end up creating a lot of characters in your head that have different sets of skills. And so I took all those kind of different aspects of my personality and said, well, let's overlap them and see what is the thing that's a common thread. So that became creativity to me. I'm creative. So from the basis of being creative, that allowed me to make better thoughts about how to pursue. And then that gave me my first tool to use. So anytime I get into a situation where I would need to get out. And so instead of creating a different sect of personality just to be, I can say, okay, well, no, I'm a creative person. I can figure this out. And if somebody asks something about me and they say, oh, Aristotle, who are you? What are you? What do you do? I'm creative. You know what I mean? It was easy to associate that, and I could be very confident with saying that. So the next year, I went through, and the next resolution or core value that I had to my kit was the idea of so there's being the best me I could be, and then the next year was reaching my potential. Once I figured out what that was, you know what I mean? Like, I was going to reach my potential. I was going to like apply that to everything I could. Boom, 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 here's creativity. So I leave the job at Folly Music, and now I'm working for West Virginia Radio Corporation. And so I'm come in and learn how to do board op. I was doing promotions in the beginning, so I took a pay cut. Started working for like minimum wage at this job, doing promotions where I would drive around to businesses and set up a tent. Literally, the tent and the van that I drove were more important to be there than it was for me to be there. so that means but you're like, okay, I'm gonna go do this, and so I went and I set that up. But one of the best things was I got to meet all of the business owners. Mm-hmm. That we would go to. So we play at so we'd go set up at car dealerships, and we'd go set up at banks and stuff like that. So all of a sudden, I'm talking to professionals about. So I'm learning this new skill set about what it takes to be successful and reach your goals from people that are successful business owners just by having casual conversations. And I was selling my music too, because when they talked to me, I would say I'm creative, I'm a musician, this is what I have. So they started booking the bands that. When they'd have events at car dealerships or banks, or the radio station would book us for when they do parties for New Year's. And I think one of the funnest gigs we did was called Sarah's Slumber Party, and this was awesome because it was it's essentially like it was a women's event, and we get there and like there's like 7 dudes. There's like the 2 dudes that are setting up the stage, and then like the 5 dudes in the band. And so everybody's like partying, drinking, having fun all night long, and we're over here playing. And it gets to this one moment in the night, and we look up, and like literally, like there's just like a bunch of intoxicated, members of the fair sex checking us out, and we're over there. We're just like, yeah, look at us. Aren't we just a stud puppies? And I said, well, must be what the Beatles felt like every day,
Yeah, I know.
So that was the first time I got a glimpse into that.
When you're really just walking through a women's prison, you're the only guy there.
Well, the thing about it was, now it changed really quick. This is where I learned because it went from the moment when the party was going on, and then the party ended, and then there was just a bunch of hungry women. Like because they didn't have food, and so it was just like
hangry women.
Everybody just going around like, oh, is there any food here? Is there any food? Is there any food? And you're like, do you have food? Can you guys take us to get food?
Aristotle Jones, music and grill.
Yeah, music and grill. Hey, next time, man.
Hey, man, I'll hire you.
At least keep some beef jerky in the car, right? So there was so that was reaching my potential. And so the next year was like, okay, let me get more out of life than I've ever gotten before. So that's when I started doing things. I started listening to this podcast, the WTF podcast. Mark Maron does a really good interview, kind of an agenda-free podcast like this. But the idea was it's beautiful, and I recommend this to anybody. Have more conversations with people that you admire. Seek those people out. But if you have an opportunity just to like listen to your idols and your heroes tell their life story, listen to as many of those as you can, because what it did was that back when I said, well, what do I do? And I stacked everything on top of each other and said, what's the common thread? Well, I took that skill set. I say, okay, what are these people doing? Like, what's the pathway to success? And so what it was is once I started stacking all these stories on top of each other, there were redundancies. Like at a certain point, you're going to have to stand up in front of like somebody that can change your life and be able to articulate exactly how you're going to do it and then follow through. So it doesn't matter if you're going to ask your boss for a raise, or it doesn't matter if you're going to ask the girl of your dreams out. But there's a moment, and the sooner you can identify or lead yourself into that moment when you want to make things happen, then that's how, and then you got to rehearse that and practice that and live in that and go for it. And like that, it's a normal thing. It's a process. Everybody goes through the struggle. Everybody kind of has their dues and their hard knocks, and then everybody has that moment where they get what they asked for. And if you didn't ask for enough, you'll get exactly what you asked for. That's the craziest thing. You'll get exactly what you asked for. And in the movie, the James Brown biopic, I think it's called Get On Up or something like that. There's a scene where Little Richard and James Brown are sitting outside of a Tasty Freeze or some type of Dairy Mart, and Little Richard comes up to James Brown and he goes, one day the devil's going to come and knocking at your door. And it ain't going to be a guy dressed up with ponytail and horns and a pitchfork. It's going to be some dude in a suit that's going to ask you, what do you want? And you got to be able to tell them exactly what you want. And then they do a cutscene, and the next thing's like, and it goes, oh no, it was so James Brown starts talking about like, the blue chiffon and purple suits, and then the cutscene, the next scene is like, here's this stage with like 30 people want to just dance, and that's what he had in his mind the whole time. And so like, if you can identify that, and then you can tell that to somebody that can give it to you, or can make it happen for you, or facilitate that for you, then like, hey man, like it's right there for you to have. And so that was the year when I went into, the main thing I got out of that was I needed to affect positive change in my life through having more income. So that was what I went in, and I remember the feeling I got. I went into my boss at work, and I said, I got up in the morning and I cut a mohawk into my head, and then I went in and I talked to the CEO of a big media organization about giving me more money and giving me the opportunity to do what I want. And he said, great, let's do it. There wasn't anything, the resistance wasn't there. Only thing that was stopping me from getting there was me not being able to articulate that. So once I kind of got that out, here it was. And so I got that. And then the next year, really, like last year was all about momentum, and I remember we had a show on New Year's Eve of 2018. And it wasn't a great show. It was at this place that did do a lot of promotion. I'd promoted it a bunch. They weren't really open that much, so we maybe had like 10 or 15 people there. And it was like New Year's Eve, and there's like 10 or 15 people. And you're like, oh no, this is like, how does that make you feel? But we hung out with the band. We got paid. We ate good. We go back, and we're sitting at Drew Jones, the bass player's house. And we were sitting there and hanging out, and we started talking about what our New Year's resolutions are. And I said, well, mine's momentum. And people were like, well, what does that mean? You know what I mean? Like,
not used to hearing something like that.
Yeah. And I was like, well, man, like I feel like I'm getting things going. But it was momentum because I was talking about with the digital nomads. I was like, hey, we're here in this group and we're all hanging out together. It's on New Year's Eve. Here's this great thing we can do. Here's how we're going to lay it out. We're going to get all this momentum, and this is going to take us to the level that we want to be on. And so it was really hard whenever things didn't work out that way initially. And then, so when I get back to my grandfather going, just be yourself, man, then that took me back through all these steps that I had to kind of go through. So instead of being like, oh, I'm not going to travel around and play music and all this stuff, I was like, well, no, man, let's just book the shows in Nashville. Let's book the shows in DC. Let's book the shows in Buffalo. Let's travel to all these places. Let's go get out there. Let's get in the habit of going. And doesn't matter. Let's do the gigs and make it happen. You just got to do it as a singer-songwriter, a solo artist right now. You got to go and break down these doors yourself. It'd been nice to have like this big group of people and a lot of moral support, so you're not hanging out by yourself on the road. But what I found out, man, was like from the beginning, from that May to that August, man, we had this show down in Nashville, and it was me and Dave and another guy that used to play with us, Ramsey. He moved down to Alabama, Huntsville, Alabama, which is about an hour and a half south of Nashville. So he's like, hey, man, I'll come up and do those gigs with you. And we're doing this this show that is, it's not the full band show. It's like this kind of like hybrid trio show with a mandolin, acoustic guitar, and a cajon. And it's real nice harmonies, kind of has like a bluegrass, folk, Americana feel to it at the time. And he comes up, but then I look out at the audience, and it was literally all of my friends that had moved away, that kind of lived in like the middle of the country, had driven 2 and 3 hours to come see us at this place in Nashville. And so I never felt like more love and the fact of being like, okay, well, man, like this is obviously what I should be doing, because not only have I gone out here and kind of put myself out there, but at the end of putting myself out there, here's all these people that came and said, man, you're doing it right. Hey, man, we got your back. We got your back. And so that was a big moment moving into I was tired because it was going through all that, but then it was like, okay, I'm going to put out. We also do. I'm the entertainment director for Haunted House, Rich Fright Farm. That's where we met, and then and so I had to book a a 30-day fest. I mean, essentially a 30-day entertainment series. I just got off of the road, and then I was like, and they kind of got me the information late, and they wanted to start 2 weeks earlier because it was like Friday the 13th. So we have 6 weeks of shows, and I'm like, oh man, I got to get all these booked. And then my grandfather had kind of taken a turn for the worse. He got like this small little sore on his foot that he wasn't healing because he had poor circulation, and so it went from him having like a sore on his foot and us planning to go like on a beach vacation and him going these gigs with me and just like hanging out, having fun, just being bachelors on the road, to now he's had like 3 amputations in like 8 weeks, and then he's going like, man, I just want to be done with this. He's 90 years old. He's like, this isn't how I want to be getting around. And so my grandfather is extremely like ill and kind of checking out, man. I got a full-time job at the radio station. I'm working over there. I'm the creative director, doing a bunch of work. It's football season. It's like a busy time there. I just got off the road with from playing a bunch of shows, traveling around, and then I'm looking at this entertainment series and negotiating with bands, and I'm just like in the world's worst mood, man. You know what I mean? Like, but at the same time, I'm excited about things that are going on, but I'm just not really even associated with reality. I'm just like throwing out, just like work, and so I get to finally get through all that, get to November, and had finished up. So, I mean, I found some time to go in the studio and finish a couple of the tracks that I wanted. And I said, you know what? I've got to put this song out now. Now's the time. I mean, like, this is like I have 2 months where I don't have anything booked. It's kind of like our slower time. I said, well, man, I'm going to put this out, and I got to get people to hear it. I can't just put it out. I've put in too much work to just put it out. And, hey, guys, there's something on YouTube.
Yeah.
And then it's there for 3 days. So I'd, through a lot of those road conversations that you had, like I told you about, and talking to different musicians and kind of trial and error, I'd kind of came up with a game plan on how to do digital releases better and how the business of actually releasing music works. And
it's changed a lot too.
It has. Because like your churn and the burn time doesn't really last a long time. Unless you're getting it pushed in multiple segments. So like, and even if you look at somebody like J-Lo, so like J-Lo's run up to the Super Bowl, man, as soon as they knew, they were like, we're going to do a campaign to get you to play in the Super Bowl. So we're going to start 2 years beforehand and start putting you in this and start releasing all this stuff. And you're like, well, how can that person have all this stuff happening? Yeah, there is some amount of, incidental stuff or coincidental stuff that's just happening when you're doing it. But you're like, well, man, here's an album, here's a book, here's this. We're going to have you guest host on this and guest host on this. And you got to build your momentum up to that, release it, and then you got to like support it. And so I started reading all about how to do that better. And it was it was neat about it. It was something simple, like maybe like a Sonic Bids email or a Spotify email that they send out to artists every once in a while that was just like, hey, here's a tip and trick on how to release music. And I'm like, well, shoot, I can't believe I've never like sat down and gone through these steps before.
It's interesting that you bring that up because I'm a big video game nerd. So I was watching a streamer play Fortnite yesterday. His name's Nick Merckx. And one of the people in his chat, he has like 20,000 people in it, but he says, I'm trying to become big like you. I'm trying to be a millionaire doing video games, what I love. I said, okay, what's your plan? He said, well, I stream every day. I do this. He said, okay, everybody does that, but what's your plan? And he's like, no, I put stuff out on YouTube. And he's like, okay, everybody puts up stuff on YouTube, but what's your plan?
Yeah.
And so he kept asking him that question. He's like, no, that everybody does that. So it's really cool to hear. I mean, this is a plan that you started years ago. Where you're like, okay, I got to do this. And now that I've done this, okay, I got to add this. And now, I mean, this is all this work put together, and now you're looking forward to 2020 and 2021, and you think, well, I got to do this. And that will set you apart just by yourself, where you have a plan, and you even mentioned you had a plan fall through, and you kind of were falling for a second. You're like, what do I do there? A new plan. So you come right back with it. And that's cool to hear you say that, because you mentioned how you look at other successful people, and he said, well, there was a video game record, there's a kill record. I saw it had 1 million views on YouTube. I decided I could break that record.
Yeah.
Not everybody could, but I could. So I went and I broke it. I got 1 million views on YouTube. And next thing you know, here I am. And he's like, and I streamed at different times, so I didn't rival different other people. But that's in any creative outlet where you're in West Virginia, which might not be the best launching point, but you have a plan. You're doing things different. And here you're pushing the envelope just in the best way you know how. And then you're learning as you go. And like you said, even looking at J-Lo, you think, maybe if I'm playing the Super Bowl one year or whatever the case may be, or even just a big show in West Virginia, I have a plan where, I mean, this podcast, that can be part of it.
And it totally is. Like, and that was, I mean, exactly what you're saying. Like the idea of planning and having the goals to, I mean, this is your life. And I can't, and this was something that it was really, I don't know if it's midlife crisis or if it's like just a moment of awareness. Like I'm sitting in my job and I go up to the front desk and somebody says something to me, man. It was just one of those days when the people, and the normies, as I call them, are just like being a bit more normie. You're like,
it wasn't quite as nice as the girls and the drunk girls from the
it wasn't the same feeling. And so I'm sitting there and I'm thinking to myself, I was like, man, if I want to let's just say, and I think a part of that too was my grandfather was kind of, you could tell it was like the term for the worst. And I thought to myself, I said, well, my grandfather is 89. I'm not halfway to 89, but you never know when you're going to pass away. So I go, well, man, like, let's just assume that I got about halfway through my life right now. And I got like the same amount of time as I have had up to this point. Well, man, I want to make the rest of my life the best of my life. You know what I mean? Like, I want to be engaged. And the things that I've done up to this point have gotten me this. You know what I mean? So if I'm not specifically happy with what those things have given me, or if I'm not in the space that I want to be at, or if I don't feel like I'm moving in the right direction, I can be an active participant in my life. I can steer the ship. And that was the whole idea of like the planning or what I call it, is trajectory, like the idea of like, think a bit farther out, create a larger arc. And this is what got me to that. This was like kind of a really trippy thing, because as an artist, you'll have these moments where you create something, you don't know if it's of any value or not. And so I said, well, man, what do I want to be? What's the story I want to tell when I'm 60? And I said, man, if I tell the story of I spent the next 20 or 30 years traveling around playing music and talking to people, and then like, that's probably like a really awesome life, man. Like to me, I was thrilled. I was like, well, man, what else am I going to do? Like, it's great to buy a house and it's great to have a big family, but I was like, well, I don't have that. You know what I mean? Like I've obviously been making these subconscious decisions, to lean into this. So let me like really embrace this future. And like you said, when the guy goes, what's your plan? Like, so going back to this year, my New Year's resolution or my New Year's set. Well, I'll go back. So it was November of last year, no, not 2019. I was like, I got to release this music. And I said, here's what I'm going to do. I mean, I work at a radio station, so I kind of have an in, but like it's what I do during the day is I produce audio commercials, like for radio. So I take things that people don't want to hear usually, and then I try to make them interesting enough that you want to listen to them. And so I said, okay, well, man, I'm kind of this glass ceiling where like I have tons of content on the radio. People hear my stuff every day. I'm probably the most of artists in Morgantown or in North Central West Virginia making content. My content is probably heard the most just because like I have stuff on radio every day, but it's not the art. It's not my art. Yeah. It's my commercial aspect of it. And so I was like, well, man, here's what I want to do. If I'm going to release these songs, I want to actually do a release. And so as soon as I really committed to that and knew I was going to have the material done, I was like, man, I got to go in and I got to start pitching to these DJs and program directors and everybody that I know and say, hey, man, I just need you to do me a favor. I don't need you to play my song all the time. I don't need you to fall in love with my song. I just want people, I know it's a really good song. I put a lot of work into it. I know it'll have a positive impact on people's lives. So if you can just play it, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, if you can just put it out there, then the rest of it will be okay. And so, like, It was really good. I mean, I did radio interviews and TV interviews and had my song debut on the morning show for VAQ and people, and so like all of a sudden the social media ticks were going up and people were coming out to the show and people had a different perspective of what I was doing. It wasn't any different than what I believed in myself, but I was like, hey man, like here's that moment. Here's another one of those moments where you got to ask somebody to and what do you want? Do you want them to play your song all the time? Well, maybe they will, or maybe they won't. But if you just say, "Hey, man, will you play it?" and then if people call, they'll and ask for it.
You
now
give
you have
people
it.
the chance to ask for it.
Yeah, give people they weren't hearing it before, like and so you put it up on like Facebook or Instagram or it's on YouTube. Well, YouTube's super passive, man. Like how you're going to get it? Spotify, you might get into a playlist. You have no clue who's listening to it. But the song I released was it was a personal remake of West Virginia Hills, which is one of West Virginia's 4 state songs, which I grew up listening to since I was, or not listening to, but they teach it to you in like elementary school. It's like, oh, the West Virginia hills are majestic and grand. It's like, oh, the hills, beautiful hills. And it's really like cool for 1885. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
But I wanted to do something. I wanted to create a much more timeless version of it. So what I did was I took a doo-wop style, put like some blues elements over it, and gave it a really soulful delivery, and just wanted to create something that people could listen to, and it still had that retro feel to it, but it wasn't. It was. I changed the lyrics up, so it was just more about like what it means to have grown up in West Virginia and still have pride, and as you go out into the world, you carry that pride with you. It's wear it as a badge of honor, not as like a point of shame. You say, "Hey, man, I'm from West Virginia. Of course, I'm from West Virginia." And that was something I learned when I was traveling around. Was I was an ambassador for the state. I'd tell people I'm from West Virginia, and they wouldn't believe me. But by the end of the sets in these places, people would be like, "Yeah, West Virginia, woo!" And you're like, "Yeah, man, that's me. I'm your Appalachian Soul Man. That's me. This is the music, you know." Like, and people they grabbed onto that because it was authentic. And so once that came out, I kind of had a lull there where I was like, well, what do you do now? You know, now it's out there. You kind of have that big peak. I did what the article said, you know, try to promote it 4 to 6 weeks in advance. And then you have 6 weeks afterwards where it's kind of still hot and burning. And so I was like, okay, I did the shows. And I was like, well, now I got to book a tour. Like, and I got to finish up more music. And the buzz kind of wore off. So you got to deal with that. And you're like, oh, I got to get more of that. So I was like, well, what's my New Year's resolution going to be this year? And it's turn up the volume. And that's both in amplitude and in quantity. And the idea of it is it takes all of these skill sets and all these tools that I had for the last 4 or 5 years, put them into it, and then just be more of that. Mm-hmm. Scale it to another level. And so that's where doing the guided meditations came in and learning how to manifest my what I want, so identifying what exactly I want out of my life, and I could do that long term, I could do that medium term, I could do that immediately. Like before the show that I was telling about with the fundraiser, I sat down and I meditated just about what I wanted the performance to be like, how I wanted people to be receiving, what I wanted out there in the audience. You know, I said I want to see a full crowd of people where they're trying to get in, there's not a room, and you look up and all of a sudden it's like a full crowd of people, and the question is like, first you manifest. So think about what you want, and think about how it makes you feel. Now think about what you want a different way, and what still gives you that same feeling. So you can't control who's in your audience, and you know whether it's young, old, college students, you know what I mean, like a mixed crowd. But you can't control the energy that you put out to them, and the conduit for your to be a fan and be a performer. And so now, through my goal this year is I want to play in front of 10,000 people, and I want to convert 10,000 fans, and I want to perform on Mountain Stage. So those are like very specific tasks, but like if I can convert 10,000 fans, and like the chances of getting on Mountain Stage are much more significant, right? Yeah. So also I want to I had to change the business model and the structure for how we make money, because I was like, well, man, I'm having a hard time being consistent and taking out the band all the time, because not all the venues want to pay enough for you to take 4 or 5 guys out. Mm-hmm. But it's so important to the fan conversion that the arrangement be right, because if you're hearing these smaller portions of it, you're not it doesn't
Yeah.
it doesn't give you the same thing. It's kind of like you were saying when you produce something or write a song and it's not it.
Not exactly what you want.
Yeah, and then so they don't get it, and they just see me trying to say, "Oh, that would be good if," and that's what you try to avoid the whole time as an artist. Is like somebody going like, "Oh man, that would be really good if you did this," and you're like, "Well, no, man, I just want you to come up and be like, wow, man, like that was something else. That you just blew my mind." And so, in order to have my band be out there with me more often, I had to find a better way for the free fans. The people that were coming out to dinners and restaurants and maybe like just dive bars over there, not really doing to support the band, they just showed up. How do you convert them into paying fans? So yeah, you have your CD and your music and they can buy that. But that's still like a one-time purchase.
Yeah.
You have your t-shirts, you have your all these different things, they can buy that. But it's like, really, that's a lot of work. That's a lot of salesmanship. You know what I mean? You spend a lot of time hawking, peddling wares. And so what I decided, what I'm doing this year as part of my fan conversion is going through Patreon. And Patreon's really fun because the idea of it is you get your monthly subscribers. But the thing about it is like there's these tiered levels so that you can support at any level you want to support. But the idea is like, would you pay, if I can get 10,000 people to give me $2 a month and they're paying that for some subscription they have to something else that they don't even know they have.
Gym membership they don't use.
They use, and that's literally only $20 a year or $25 a year. So I want to get people to, which would be the price of like a hoodie or a vinyl record.
Yeah.
But so the idea, what I'm doing now is releasing a song monthly. So by signing up for the subscription, you get a monthly song. When I travel around on the tour dates, like I'll sit down and I'll do like little interviews and snippets to talk, the conversations that the band has. And of course you got to change and alter that to see what people want. But the idea is like, I want to give you something. I don't want to necessarily force you to have to buy a CD. Say I met you while I was playing at Myrtle Beach. Well, man, I may not ever see you again, but you can sign up to support me and still get music and be a lifelong fan. And I don't ever have to see you again, but you'll get like live performance shows. We stepped up our content level for that. We stepped up our content level for like just little snippets. There's photos, doing photo shoots, and all of the things that you do when you support on Patreon or support me through, if you want to just donate something at a show, or if you want to purchase something at a show, it's just creating better content. It's not specifically for me to live some kind of like lavish life. It's so I can bring the band out, because if the venue's only paying us $200 or $300, there's only so many $300 gigs you can do.
Especially split 5 ways.
And
that's food and gas on the way there, and that's it.
Yeah, exactly. And there's not enough weekends in a year to make that. So you always have to be confined to having your day job.
9 to 5, and then
So I'm thinking, well, man, you start off the month with $20,000 working capital, man. That means I can produce a high quality video. That means I can spend time in the studio. That means I can pay the band. That means that we can go out and do shows. That's not me like going, oh, I'm making like $20,000 a year. It'd be great to make $250,000 a year, right? But that's kind of what it takes to have music go, and that's the expense of it, because you are an artist. But I hate for any of my fans as I go along to think that they're not getting ample value for what I'm putting out there. But it's like, well, man, you can like my music or not, but if you just like me and the fact that I'm somebody that's following my dreams, you can support just the fact that you're helping somebody follow their dreams too. So
that's kind of what we try to do here is, all right, you might have heard Aristotle's song on the radio, but do you know Aristotle?
That's right.
Yeah.
We try to dig deep, and maybe they'll like you, maybe they won't. Hopefully they like you, but I like you.
Hey, either way, like I say, you like my music or not, man, the whole idea of it is, I'm sure you will. Like if you're from this area, like it's tricky because it's new and unique, but it's familiar. So the idea of it is like fitting into some of these venues and getting on bills with certain bands that might help you, or festivals. People are like, oh, it's Americana. Well, I need something upbeat. You're like, well, no, it is upbeat. Oh, well, we like Americana stuff. Well, no, it's like that. We have those instruments. You know what I mean? Like, and you're like, well, man, do you play like, we want something funky. I was like, okay, well, man, like half the songs are like just straight funk songs. You know what I mean? Like, but it just depends on
breaking people's perception of you. Because I'll be honest, I heard you were playing with last year's model, and I thought do those two music styles go together? And that's the first thing that came across my head. But I mean, you've completely changed my mind just sitting here where you said we can do anything you ask us to do.
Yeah. And two, it's like, it's something that I learned. People like good music. And it's like kids, they'll identify with something that's good all the time. Older people will identify with something that's good all the time. They may not like what you're doing, but they can tell you if you're doing something
So that's
good.
well done. Yeah.
Yeah, that's well done. That, you know, and I think a lot of times what bands run into is they're not good at running sound. And so it's hard to listen to.
Some venues aren't good.
And some venues aren't good at running sound. So it's something, and that's when we learned, when we played in a lot of the restaurants, that was the first thing. First, it didn't really matter what we were doing, as long as it didn't sound offensive to your ears, like harsh, I guess is a better word. As long as it didn't sound harsh to your ears, then people could listen to it. I mean, they may not like if you're doing like Avenged Sevenfold or something like that. You know what I mean? Like they may not be into that, but at the same time, if you're up there, like, I mean, like some of those heavier arrangements from some of these bands are like akin to classical music, and some of these what people in this area like a lot are harmonies, and that was, and I think everywhere, you know, like, but it's a bluegrass and it's a folk tradition. I took it back to like a gospel aspect of it, where to me, about to say the time my grandfather would have been going around playing the churches. Well, that was, there's two different porches on Sunday evening. After everybody went home from churches, they kept playing music and celebrated. But there was two different porches that people went to. West Virginia is really known for one type of porch, the bluegrass, the country picking, folksy porch. You know what I mean? Like, and that's what everybody thinks about. Hey, and that's where a big tradition of storytelling came from. The gospel songs just being sang, and that's a lot of bluegrass songs are about. Well, on the other side of it, the coin, on the other side of town, it was the same thing going on. The music was happening. It was soulful music. It was about love and romance and friendships and struggle, and it wasn't just blues. You know what I mean? It was still that folksy harmony type sound, and that's where you got like your early Motown stuff out of. You know what I mean? Like that's where a lot of those people were coming out of the church and going and creating that early rock and roll sound. And so that was that's something. Once I really dove into that became the foundation for Appalachian soul music that I make. It's just I like to say it's a continuation on of early 20th century Black American culture, but it's also you got to take like your pioneers like Bill Withers, who would be like somebody that was like in 60s and 70s making that music. His songs were folk songs. They were groovy folk songs, but they were folk songs. It has to do with an acoustic guitar sitting up there singing songs from West Virginia. Mm-hmm. That's no different than what I'm doing. You know what I mean? Like it's just, hey man, this guy he sung Lean on Me and everybody in the world knows that song. Yeah. You know, he sang Use Me and everybody in the world knows that song. You know, and it's not, that's something that we should be proud of in the state. That's a tradition that needs to be carried on. That's a legacy that I think can be represented through contemporary artists. And it doesn't have to just be the funky aspect of it. There's a very soulful, spiritual, connective element to it. And so, but I mean, like I say, it's also we're playing music in bars a lot of times too. So you know what I mean? Like we just want to have fun. And but as I put out this music, and as I connect with more audience, a larger audience around the country and hopefully around the world, they'll start to have a bigger glimpse in what it means to be alive in Appalachia in the 21st century. It's a very integrated global place where like we see what's coming from everywhere else. We have a lot of really married influences where we blend a lot of genres on a regular basis just because the reason I did it is because when you first listen to music, or whenever I was younger and you first listened to music, it was like somebody having a CD, and they only have the one CD. It was there, and then you have one CD player in your car, and it was like the one CD you're listening to, you put it in there, and then that's what you're listening to, and everybody learns all the words to that song, and you're singing along, and that's how you became part of your group. Or there wasn't a lot of different radio stations, so you know there might be the country station, and there might be the pop station, and then there was like a talk station, and that was all you had. So if they weren't playing the song you liked on on the pop station, you switch it over and hope there was a country song that you could listen to. And so I listened to stuff like Garth Brooks and like Tim McGraw. And but in addition, I was listening to like Boyz II Men and Shy. And then like, in the early 2000s, you're listening to like Genuine, the Ying Yang Twins. And, and then it was like, okay, it was the 20 teens. And then you had like this whole retro vibe where you had like somebody like Adele, who's kind of, who was like, oh, here's this interesting R&B soulful kind of sound. And then you have like Justin Timberlake kind of like getting into that. And then you have like somebody like Chris Stapleton, who's like taking like this kind of like this soulful folk idea. Now you have cats like Leon Bridges out there making music, and it's just like so genuine. And you're like, well, here's this great opportunity. There's this guy out of California. I don't know if you guys listen to him. He makes a completely different style of music, but I think, man, like spiritually, I think we're very similar. And that's Anderson .Paak. So Anderson .Paak, he uses you should totally check him out, man. He's a rapper, but he's more than a rapper because he's a drummer. But he's not just a rapper and a drummer. He's also can sing sing very soulfully. And he writes his songs and he blends these genres, and he's not really scared to push the envelope on his sound. And so he just won a Grammy for like best hip hop artist. Got signed by was doing this stuff in like with indie label for 15 years, and all of a sudden 2 years ago, Dr. Dre signs him and goes, "Hey man, I like your stuff." And he's like, "Oh man, you listen to my music, like." So that's the very coolest aspect of creating and putting it out there. That's different now than when I first started, because we were burning. I mean, I think we started getting like we were burning CDs or sending them off, making them and packaging them.
Cassette tapes.
Oh man, I never. Well, I made one recording on cassette, and that was I wanted to. We were playing just in Down in Huntington. There's a venue called the V Club, and they had just opened. And what happened? We were like the second band to play there. And I said, "Oh man, I had this cool band. It had a violin, keyboard, percussion, sax, alto sax, trombone, and then your rock trio, so guitar, bass, and drums." And I was like, "Oh man, I got to get this music recorded." And I was like, "Well, how do you do this?" So I got a board, and I was like, "I'm gonna do your aux mixes in there." And I got it, and I ran the tape out into the tape player, and it was just like a 2-deck like dub tape player that I think my mom and dad had, and I took that from them, and then I played it and recorded on that tape, and I was like, "Oh, listen to this, everybody!" Wore that tape out.
There's nothing more crucial and exhilarating in your childhood lifetime where there's a song coming on the radio and you don't know when, but you got to be there to hit record.
Yep. Yeah.
So that you can make that mixtape. So, man, I spent many hours sitting next to. Oh, and then if you miss it, you miss it.
Or the DJ intro.
You go to the bathroom for 10 seconds and they put that song on. You can't.
Oh,
you can't.
no, man. They come in too early, come in too late. Yeah, they play it in between. They say up after this, and it's like a bunch of commercials, and you're like, gotta cue it back up, man. I mean, like, but that's the best part to me about music. Is that people will listen to, they'll find it, and and sometimes we get so caught up now on the quality of it, like the fidelity of it, like how clear and crisp and everything, and how well it's recorded. And then you listen to stuff like Robert Johnson, and if you put on like this early blues record and you just listen to it, it's like, "Oh, I'm singing the blues," but it's like crackling and falling apart, and you're like, well, man, like. I mean, honestly, after a while, those cracks and pops go away, and I'm just hearing the performer sing the song because my brain fixes those things. And so there was like this big lo-fi push where everybody was just like, "Oh, we got all these recordings, but we don't have the high quality mic, so we're gonna put the we're gonna make songs and not really mix them down that well and just put the music out." And that's kind of like your punk aspect of it. We're just gonna like, hey, here's some sound,
Just the
like
raw
it or not.
aspect of
it's
it.
raw, yeah. But people listen to it now, and you don't. You can't back away from it. You just got to, like, I say, lean into it. So, I mean, that's where I'm at this year. I got let's see. I keep adding dates. At last I counted, between now and June, I got 17 shows booked.
Oh, shoot.
In 12 different cities that I'm going to. And now I'm booking traveling farther. It's kind of regionally around Maryland, Pennsylvania, Ohio, and West Virginia. And then in July, I'm going to be going down through Louisville to Nashville, South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, and then DC, and come back over and kind of expand that loop down to the Southeast. And then it'll be the end of summer again to kind of get back into doing the haunted house series, or possibly be on a completely different level. I'm hoping this leads me into playing larger festivals and getting in front of more people. I'd love to tour Europe at some point in time. You know what I mean? Like that's something that I'm trying to figure out where my timeline that falls, but I'm also looking for those opportunities, because I can say I'll do it next year, but if I just put it out there and somebody's like, do you want to do it tomorrow? Then that's a decision that I got to be prepared to make. Yeah. Because that'll change your life, and it may not be a life-changing tour. You know, is this what I'm saying? So it's the idea of it is really, they might be like, you want to go to 3 weeks in Europe. And you're like, okay, that's great. But it's not like you're going to do 3 weeks in Europe and you're going to get paid a year's salary for it. So do you want to go to Europe and play music for 3 weeks and then come back and put your life together, back together? So it's
You'll definitely have to hit up Boston at some point and see if you can collaborate with the other Aristotle Jones.
AJ squared.
That could be the next.
Or would it be A squared, J squared? That's the question.
I don't even know. You can
like
put up the next
two AJ.
The next
math jokes.
Old Town Road.
Gang gang.
So before we get wrapped up, tell everybody where they can find you at.
Oh, totally. So here's the best part. It is easy. If you go to AristotleJones.com, you have links to all of my social media and all of clips of my music. We post new videos up there after every show. There's a new clip of the last show we did, at least one song from the show. There's a way that you can sign up for our mailing list. You can also find us on Facebook, Aristotle Jones Music, or Aristotle Jones Music WV. We're also on Instagram and Twitter and all your other social media. It's different, you know, man, especially when people go out there and you try to get at these usernames, and Aristotle's got 9 characters, so that takes up most of it already. So there are different variations of Aristotle Jones. There might be a Jones Aristotle, but the easiest way to like really get hooked up on social media is just visit my website first. Go to AristotleJones.com.
And your Patreon?
Well, it'll be set up at the end of the month. So just go to AristotleJones.com, and that'll give you all the links you need to have to crowdfund me as long as you want, man. I say sign. Hey, honestly, you can do Cash App, you can do PayPal, you can do Venmo.
Not picky.
Well, no, hey man, I want to make it easy for you to support me. Like, it's not hard, man. I'll guarantee I'll make lots of music, and you'll be able to listen to it. You'll be able to talk about it with your friends. You'll be able to ask your friends, "Hey, do you know this guy named Aristotle?" It's a great icebreaker. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, you can if you see me out on the road, man, come and hang out. You know, man, we're all just people on this planet trying to make the best of the situation we're in. And so, like, man, it's like this. I can be good, and you can be good too. I can be happy, and you can be happy too. And I can be happy for you having everything you want. So I always say, the more love we put into the world, the more love there is in the world. So let's just fill the world with love and positive intentions, and let's move forward to have what we want. That's the only way we can counterbalance all of the weird negativity and zeitgeist that kind of gets put out there that we can't control. It's a lot of information. So, but what we can control is how we treat other people and what we choose to create as our mission or our platform in life. And everybody has a platform, even if it's just your neighbor that you talk to. So just continue to add positivity and figure out what it is we want, man. Tell somebody about it, and you never know, man. You could have that tomorrow. And that's just not blind optimism. Success isn't rare. It literally happens every day. Somebody meets their dream every day. I mean, more than one person. I mean, if I were to tell you have a 1 in 7.5 billion chance of something random happening to you, that's pretty likely, in my opinion. 1 in 7.5 billion. I like those odds. They don't happen at least one time in 7.5 billion. So, man, like, make it your time. Be you. Just follow through on your dreams. Set your plan. Just know you're living your life, and it's your life to live. And you don't want to look back on it and be like, man, I wish I would have done this. You say, man, I'm in the moment. I'm here. I'm guiding myself through the way I want to get to where I want to go. And if you don't know what it is, just start asking yourself questions about what you do, what you like to do. Ask the people around you, hey, man, what do you see that I always end up into that maybe, because they'll give you input and then stay true to yourself as far as like your objectives, and break it down. It's like the guy on YouTube, man. Well, what do you do?
Yeah.
What do you do? Like, what's your? And it's not about making a lot of money, although that's what it seems like it's about, because money comes and money goes. Money's like air. Money flows. If you use money to make money, they always say it takes money to make money. If you use money to make more money, you'll make more money. But if you hoard it, then you're not going to have it. It's creativity is the same way. If you use creativity to create more creativity, which is just 3 creativities in a row, that's creativity.
Yeah.
Then you'll have that too,
So I know you said you had 17 shows coming up. I'm not sure when this episode drops, but shout out some of those towns that you're going to be in, some of those dates.
So, man, it's really fun this year because, like, normally I would be in the same place. And like I said, I've done a lot of shows, like, at same venues. And I made a point not to do that very much. So, like, coming up, I see, this probably won't be out, but I'll be at the 15th, I'll be at the Boulevard Tavern in Charleston. On the 22nd, I'll be at the Fall City Pub, and that's in Brownsville, Pennsylvania. On the 21st, I'll be at Short Story Brewing in Reevesville,
Oh, nice.
West Virginia. Those 2 are like solo shows. This show this weekend's a band show. February 29th, I'm teaming up with a band down in Huntington called the Heavy Hitters, and we're doing a West Virginia Black History kind of like celebration of Black artists from West Virginia. So we're collaborating with guys that play with they played in a band called the Dividends, Alan Brown and Hannah Spurlock, and then the band that's helping us out is the Heavy Hitters. We're backing everybody up, and we're just doing like a celebration of that, and then we're gonna do that. So that's at Black Sheep Burritos and Brews down in Huntington on February 29th. Then the following weekend on March 7th, we're going to do it up here in Morgantown at Retrotique, and that's on Walnut Street. And then 14th, we'll be at Maryland's on Main in Uniontown. And then August gets kind of crazy. We got a lot of shows all over the place. We just signed up at the beginning of May. We just got put on a Cheat Fest, and that's in Albright, West Virginia. And then we'll be at WV Pub Fest in May too. So there's festivals that are kind of coming up, venue shows, a lot of different places that you can come and see. I wanted to make sure I had like some all ages and family friendly shows for people to come out, and because those are lifelong fans, man. Get them some.
Oh yeah.
And they can find all those shows at your website.
Yeah, it's posted on the website. It's my Appalachian Soul Man tour. So anytime, if you get really lost and you can't remember Aristotle Jones, but you can remember Appalachian Soul Man, you can type that in. That'll take you right there to me.
Yep. And we'll link all of your stuff in the description.
Yeah, link it up.
If you're listening, just scroll down on your device and click one of those links. Take you right there. So Aristotle, thank you for coming out.
Oh,
Thank
heck
you so
yeah,
much.
man. I know I touched your ear off. You probably asked more questions, huh?
I mean, I honestly like took a lot of what you said and I'm going to apply it to my life. So, you know,
You wrote it all down.
yeah, I was like, I'm going to listen to this episode like 40 times because I was just into it. Like,
Dude,
well,
let's
how do you
collaborate.
do-
Let's continue to talk, man, because
Yeah.
I think, we don't have to just do it on the microphone, but if anybody's interested in just ways to get more out of your life, man, just start finding people that are moving that direction and have that energy. You'll know it. You'll see it. They have a look in their eyes.
Yeah.
And just ask them what they're doing, and then they'll listen to you, because like what I see was like the 5 habits of like successful people. It's a meme. I'm sure it pops up on your social media all the time. Follow those 5 habits of successful people, man. Have gratitude.
Jump on people's momentum.
More, learn more. Jump on people. Yeah, man. But that's collaboration, man.
Yeah.
Open yourself up. But yeah, man. Ride the coattails of wasted local talent.
Yeah, there you go. All right, man. It's been fun.
Oh yeah,
Really
totally.
enjoyed it.
Thanks for letting me ramble, dude. It's awesome.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on.